Hi, Willie Mayette here with some improvisation tips for you. All right, so now I'm going to share with you a technique that I use with students that works great for getting them to improvise over chord changes. Now, this is going to be a little bit longer than a 2-minute video, so I ask that you kind of bear with me on this because there's a lot of great skills here that I have to share with you, but it's going to take me a little time to explain it to you. And also at the end of this video, I'm going to show you where you can get all of the sheet music and also the jam tracks so you can practice this stuff on your own time at home. All right, so the first thing that we're going to do is we got to realize that when we're going to improvise, we have a bucket, right, and a bucket of notes. So if I just take, I'm going to take this example right here, like this D minor 7, G7 to C6. Okay, so if I have a D minor 7 chord, oops, if I have a D minor 7 chord, and then I have a G7 chord, and I have a C6 chord, right, now a lot of times what we would do is we would be thinking of a chord scale approach. So maybe on that D minor 7 we might be thinking Dorian, we might be thinking Mixolydian on that G7 chord, and then I might be thinking Ionian on that C6 chord, right? So Dorian, Mixolydian, Ionian. But that gets to be a lot of heavy lifting, doesn't it? You're always trying to think about, well, which scale is the right scale for the chord at the moment. So another way of thinking about this is to think about your chord tones. So as soon as you know that your chord tones are D minor 7 for D minor 7 or D, F, A, and C, and if you don't know that, I have a great program called Piano Essentials on the Piano with Willie site, so check that out. That's available for all members. But you have D, F, A, and C. Okay, so there's your bucket of notes that you could play on that D minor 7 chord. And now here's the cool thing. Those notes are always going to sound good on that D minor 7 chord. So if I play a chord shell down here and I just... I'm just playing these notes D, F, A, and C, all right? They are all going to sound good on that D chord. Well, what about on the G chord? Well, we have a G, we have a B, we have a D, and we have an F. So now we have 4 more notes there, okay? So G, B, D, and F. And on the C6 chord, we could play a C, an E, a G, an A, okay, because that's my C6 chord. And of course, I can always play that C up there as well. When I say these 4 notes, I'm not saying you have to play them right here. You could play them up here, you could play them up here, you could play that C, E, G, and A anywhere. Right? So the first step is to really get to know your chord tones. That's where, again, that Piano Essentials program comes into play. All right? But you could do this on your own as well. Just get to really know your chord tones. All right, so now, once you have these chord tones, what do you do with this? So this technique that I've used with students is we start by starting with 3 different rhythms. So here I have this first rhythm, rhythm A, and then I would vocalize this saying da, di, ba, di, ba, di, ba, okay? And my whole vocalization approach that I use with students, again, can be found on Piano with Willie. You can also, I have it available for a DVD or a download, so just do a search for rhythm. This one would be ba, di, ba, di, ba, di, ba, and letter C would be ba, triple, let, di, ba, da. I'm just going through it quickly right now for time's sake, all right? So let's just try those 3 rhythms together. So rhythm number A, I'm going to do chord notes down here. 1, 2, ready, go. Da, di, ba, di, ba, di, ba. That's letter A. Do it again with me. Ready, go. Da, di, ba, di, ba, di, ba. One more time, give you a little bit of time. So 1, 2, letter A. Da, di, ba, di, ba, di, ba. So it's da, di, ba, di, ba, di, ba. Letter B. 1, 2, ready, go. Ba, di, ba, di, ba, di, ba. You'll see that on this 8th rest here, I say all right, just as a little placeholder. So 2, ready, go. Ba, di, ba, di, ba, di, ba. And then letter C. 1, 2, ready, go. Ba, triple, let, di, ba, da. 1, 2, try it again. Ba, triple, let, di, ba, di, ba. Okay, now I know that I'm going a little bit fast right now. This isn't geared for beginners. This is geared more for an intermediate level player. If you're a beginner, check out my rhythm stuff over at Piano with Willie, because I got a bunch of stuff geared for beginner. Or my homeschool piano program would also be great if you're an absolute beginner. All right, so now I can take these 3 different rhythms, A, B, C, and now look at what I'm doing here. Now, let me play this example for you. I'll put the drums on here as well. it again. One more time. There you go. Okay. All right, so now let's talk about what's happening here. So I'm playing the F, the A, and the C, right? So those are my chord tones right from that D minor 7 chord. F, A, and C. And where do I go to? I go to this G chord right here. Now this is what's really key here is that, let me put this in right now so you can see that. Right? So that G chord, when I hit that G chord, what note am I hitting? I'm hitting the B. Why a B? Because that is my guide tones, right? Remember, my guide tones of any chord are the 3rd and the 7th of the chord, okay? So what I'm doing is I move that line and I resolve it to the 3rd on that G chord, okay? And why is that 3rd so powerful? Because that's what defines that chord, the 3rd and the 7th. So either the B or the F. I could have gone to either one of those. Okay? All right, so now, you'll notice what I did here is I play these chord tones, the B, the G, and the F. That's the 3rd, the root, and the flatted 7th. But I also snuck that one in there, that little A, didn't I, okay? That A in there, all right, is, well, what? What is that? That is my 9th, right? Okay? So the 9th there, okay, that 9th is a nice passing tone in there. The 9th is going to work on any of my major, minor, or dominant chords. So I could play my 9th on any one of these chords, the D minor 7, the G7, or the C6, okay? So the 9th is always a great chord, always a great tension to have in my back pocket to utilize, right? Now, I didn't have to do that. Could have done something like that. I could have also come down to the D and then snuck back up. And where do I go to? Right over here. I go to what? The C6. But what note is that? That is the 3rd, right? So if we take a look at how I'm creating these lines, what's happening? I'm starting on the 3rd of D. I'm going to the, going to the 3rd of G, and then I'm going to the 3rd of C. Does it have to always be the 3rd? Of course not. I can go to the 3rd, I can go to the 7th, I can go to the 5th or another chord tone as well, but the 3rd and the 7th, like I said, is going to really help define your lines. Left hand, just real simple, chord shells. Root 7 for the D minor, root 3 for the G, root 6 for the C6. You might say, well, wait a second, Willie. This D minor doesn't have the 3rd in there, so why even say it's a D minor, okay? Yes, it doesn't have the 3rd in there. I could put the 3rd if I wanted to, but this is a more ambiguous sound. It's a more open-ended sound, and it makes it so that it's not as conflicting with what it is that I'm doing in the right hand. So if I add in some notes in the right hand that might jive with that 3rd over there, okay? You hear how like I can play those other notes there, and if I don't put the 3rd in there, it just gives me that more open sound. Chord shells are great things to know because you could really get to them quickly and they get the chord sound quickly. All right, so now let's move on to the next one here. Okay, the next one here is, whoops, you know what? It appears that I skipped over letter A. Oh, I see what happened here. All right, so now here's letter B. This one. So now you notice we start on the 8th rest, right? We have rest. So again, you see there's my root, my 7th, my 5th, and then where do I go to again? I go to the 3rd of G. There's my root, there's my 7th, there's my 5th. So again, I'm just outlining that G chord, and then I go to the 3rd of the C6. Let me put the band on here. So same concepts here, right? Just these outlining of the chord. Let's take a look at letter C now. Now letter C is really interesting because you have this triplet in there. Ba, tripa, let, di, ba, da. All right? So let me play this one for you. All All right, so now let's talk about this, because this is what really gets interesting as soon as you start adding in some of this more advanced approach stuff, okay? So what I did here is I went up to the 13th for the G, okay? So this is the 13th, and I did this double chromatic moving down to the 5th, okay? So you could look at this as like the 13th with the chromatic tone moving down to the 5th, or you could think of it as a double chromatic moving down to the D, right? But the point is, what I'm doing here is I'm moving from the 13th down to the 5th of the G chord, and I'm putting a chromatic tone in between. Why do we call it chromatic? It's a half step away, right? It's not because it's a black note, it's because it's a half step away. Okay? So I have that chromatic tone moving down there into that G chord. So now there's a lot of cool things that you can do with these neighbor tones and enclosures and chromatic notes to really start to get some cool sounds there. Now, and I'm also not saying that you shouldn't use scales, but this is a good approach to really start to outline your chord sound so you can create these nice flowing improvisations. Now, to get these jam tracks and get the sheet music and get more of this type of instruction, just go ahead and click the link that is next to this video. Now, what's going to happen here is you click the link by the video, just put in your name and email address on the page that, that you're going to come to. Now, I'm going to email you the information, okay? So if you don't want to get email from me, then don't bother go through this at all. You could just kind of like check out my stuff, you know, on Facebook, YouTube, and just catch it when you catch it. But if you really just want to kind of get on a schedule and get focused here and help me to like show you really how to improvise and get focused with your practice, then go ahead and click that link next to this video. I will send you some information that is pertinent and related to improvisation, so you can really just start to focus in and hone in on improvisation. My email address is right there, willie.mayette@jazzedge.com. Do me a favor, add that to your contact list. When you get that email, drag it to your primary inbox. That way you are ensured to get my emails, okay? Because I know we all get a lot of emails, you know, and if you at any time don't want to get my emails, at the bottom of every email there's a link that you can unsubscribe. So it's super simple. My goal is simple. I want you to get the information because I'd love to see you be able to improvise. And then do me a favor, connect with me on YouTube or on Facebook or email in and let me see what it is that you're doing. All right, so that's it for me. I will see you with some more tips soon, and I'll see you in the lessons.